Shit with Ostique, the podcast series where we chat about shit with inspirational people from all walks of life. Today, we are joined by the wonderful and inspiring Holly Fleet. We hope you enjoy this conversation. Holly, welcome back to Chatting Shit with Ostique.
Hello, it's great to be back.
Great to be here. I was just telling you you're going to be our last guest of season 1, and you were actually our first guest of season 1 as well. So I'm absolutely thrilled that we got you back.
So great, such a journey. Like the last few months I've been on, I feel like I haven't stopped since coming out of my surgery at 21. Like I feel like it's just been non-stop. So it's great to kind of be able to have this to look back on and to like reflect on, definitely.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about your pregnancy experience so far. Congratulations again. Really excited for you. Before we go into everything, and I really want to cover as much as I can about this whole journey and experience, but before we do, for anyone who kind of doesn't know who you are as yet, would you mind just giving a super quick introduction as to who you are?
Okay, so I'm Holly and I'm 29, and you might know me if you do follow me already as Stoma Babe. I have an Instagram, a TikTok and a Twitter account where I kind of share my journey after having my stoma surgery and then my Barbie bottom surgery. I work part-time as a journalist for a newspaper, but I also do obviously a lot of social media type stuff too, because I like to share my story and also raise awareness at the same time. And yeah, now I am having my first baby with my boyfriend, who I actually did meet after my stoma surgery. So we haven't been together that long. I think literally like just a year now, but in a year we've managed to pack in a lifetime's worth. We've bought a house together. We've got 2 kids, and now we're having a baby. So it's been a whirlwind, but it just goes to show that, you know, if you put your mind to it, you can do whatever you want in life, no matter what your circumstance or what surgery you've had done. You know, I think it's definitely all about having a positive mindset, even though sometimes obviously that's not always easy. But I mean, I'm not even the most positive person, but since having my surgery I've actually become more positive, because I've seen what it's like to be in a very dark place and to be like life or death situation. And I think going through that, I was like, God, I was very negative a lot of my life. And I think now, you know, I've had that experience. There's so much worse stuff to be worried about in life. So now since going through that, I've become a lot more positive. And I think as long as I get out of bed in the morning, move my legs and walk around, like it's a good day. It's a good day, because I've had days where I couldn't do that. And, you know, when you're young and that happens to you, it's extremely scary, and it can happen again at any time. So I live now every day like it is kind of my last. I do what I would like to do. So yeah,
I love that. Love that. I would love to start right at the beginning of the journey and talk about fertility.
Yeah.
And whether, I guess my question's kind of twofold. One, did you have any thoughts or preconceptions or maybe even concerns about fertility based on your, you know, previous medical history? And I guess 2, did anyone from a kind of medical professional perspective perhaps tell you anything about implications when you had your surgery?
Yeah, so it's really weird. Like, to be honest, I'd never thought about my fertility until I had my stoma surgery, because it's something, babies and all that kind of stuff is something I'd never thought about. I'd never been one of those types of people who had grown up dreaming of being a mum. That was never me. I was just always of the mindset of like, well, if it happens, it happens. You know, it'll happen at the right time. I never really overthought it. So I wasn't thinking about fertility and stuff like that. And then obviously when I went to have the stoma surgery done, it's the first kind of time, I guess, I thought to myself, like, crikey, like this, what if this does impact my fertility? What if, you know, this stops me becoming a mum? And then I had to think about it properly for the first time. And I did think to myself, like, you know, I wish I'd kind of maybe paid a bit more attention to it earlier. Like, you know, maybe gone and had some testing done and all that kind of stuff, just so you kind of know, I guess, where you stand. I didn't have a clue where I stood. I didn't know if I was fertile, infertile. I mean, I've been on the pill already for like 3 years and hadn't had a period. So, I mean, you kind of, in your mind, when you don't have a period for so long, you sort of convince yourself, oh, I must just be infertile because I don't have a period, right? But I remember speaking to some people during, I mean, not a lot because I was obviously very ill, but after I think my stoma surgery, I maybe touched on it a little bit with some of the consultants and said kind of like, you know, what does this mean in terms of, you know, fertility? And they did say to me, like, kind of stuff like, you know, it shouldn't really impact, the stoma surgery shouldn't really impact fertility, unless there's obviously been complications or you have an underlying condition that may impact it. But obviously, I just had ulcerative colitis, so that doesn't really, well, it's not been proven that it impacts any kind of fertility right now. So they just said that it should be fine. And like, obviously, if I was going to consider having a J pouch or making my stoma permanent, then there might be some impact there. Obviously, then I went on to decide that I was going to have my stoma made permanent.
Yeah.
And I spoke about it a little bit more in depth with my surgeon, because they already said to me before that having a pouch, the reversal would impact fertility. Oh no, I think it's like not impact fertility, but it would impact the chances of conception. So I think what people get a bit muddled up with is people think that having like a Barbie bum or a pouch surgery impacts your fertility, but it actually doesn't impact your fertility. It impacts how easy it is for you to conceive, basically. So you could still be super fertile, but if you've had those surgeries, because they do interfere a bit more with the internals, it can make it more difficult for the sperm to get to where it needs to be.
Got it.
A lot of people can go on to, like, say, have IVF and be completely fine, right? If that's the case, if it's, so I kind of got explained to me, and then I felt a bit more at ease with my doctor saying that, obviously saying, like, if it is a struggle, you can do IVF, and if you are fertile, then you will be fine. Obviously, I didn't even know if I was fertile anyway. I did order like an at-home kit to try and test.
One of those AMH levels or whatever it is.
I don't know what it is. It's like something where you just prick your finger at home.
Yeah.
And I tried to do it, and I tried to prick my finger at home, but literally no blood was coming out of my finger, and I nearly spiked my whole finger open just to try and get blood. Nothing was coming out. So that was an absolute fail. That was a fail. But, and then I was like, I'll book an appointment maybe to go to the doctors and have it checked. But I just never really got round to it, because, when you're working and you're doing all of that, you don't have the time to be doing all that kind of stuff. So I left it. But I just said to my boyfriend, like, I think it was like the beginning of this year, I just said, well, I'll just come off birth control and give my body a break.
Yeah.
Let's just how we get on. And then obviously if there was an issue, I would have gone back to the doctors and then, done some investigations or whatever. But I said, let's just give it a try. And in my mind, I sort of thought to myself, like, it could take 6 months to a year to get pregnant. Like, it could take ages. I was like, so, if we start now, gives my body nice time to get prepared, and then, like, I'll be ready to get pregnant when I'm going to get pregnant. No, came to the 6 later. 6 weeks later, I missed my period.
No.
Pregnant.
That is so quick. Oh, God, you didn't even have time to get your head around it or anything.
I was literally in the mindset, like, it's going to take 6 months to a year.
That's what everyone says.
Out and relax. I was, like, thinking I might get pregnant, like, towards the end of the year. And then when that happened, I was just like, oh my God, like, what? Like, I was so confused and baffled, because you do hear a lot of negative stuff about fertility when it comes to these surgeries. And I think as well, like I said, a lot of people misinterpret what's said about fertility, in terms of they think that your actual fertility is impacted, not how you actually conceive a baby. So people do get into their minds, I think, a bit that it's not going to happen. And I sort of did too, because, I'd read people online saying, it'd been difficult and this kind of stuff. But then when it happened like that, I was very, very surprised. But in my mind, I also thought to myself, like, that kind of proves the theory, I guess, like, that IBD doesn't impact your fertility. These surgeries don't. They just kind of can make things a bit difficult, especially if you've had, like, a lot of people have multiple kind of surgeries too. Like, some have a stoma surgery and they have to get it refashioned, and then they have to, because all it is like, the more basically you're opening up your abdomen and you're fiddling inside,
moving things around.
The more basically doing that, the harder it is, because it creates, like, the adhesions inside, which then just, like, mess everything up basically. But I did have some adhesions. They were only discovered when I had my second surgery, because before I had my second surgery, before I had my Barbie bum, a couple of months, I think a few months before, I was getting these really bad abdominal pains that were awful, like really bad, like, oh my God. And it felt just, I didn't know what it was. It felt more than like a stomach pain. I was like screaming. It was so bad.
Oh,
and when I went to speak to my surgeon, I said I was having these pains. and they were really bad. And he said, well, it does sound like, you know, something possibly like abdominal adhesions, which can happen after you've had especially if you've had an open surgery. Basically, you know, bits of tissue, scar tissue get in the way, and they can get caught with your bowel and twist everything around. So it makes it hard for you to process food. And if they get really bad, then you can't, like, your stoma will stop. So the food won't, like, it won't even come out.
Oh,
So then you
wow.
get really ill. And sometimes, you know, if they're extremely bad, people do have to have surgery, but they advise you not to have surgery because obviously that makes it worse because you're opening yourself up again
More
and you're
scar tissue. Yeah.
basically get through it. But it's absolutely awful. It's a horrible, horrible thing to have. And then so when I went in for my surgery, my surgeon said he could see them, like when he opened me up inside, he could see all the abdominal adhesions inside. So that explained obviously why I was very unwell, and he kind of like did what he could with them, kind of smoothed them out or something apparently. But then I did have them come on again, I think at the beginning of my pregnancy,
Oh,
because the baby was growing, and I guess then my stomach was doing all kinds of things. So it did come on again, and that's when I had like 2 weeks of just the most agonizing pain in my stomach. It was so bad, but it did go away on its own. It's just annoying because there's nothing you can do but wait for it to go, like for everything to just sort of like untwist. It's really not nice. But yeah, there's lots of things that people don't think about when it comes to obviously having a baby with a stoma, like just things like that. You know, you don't think about it, but
no. So what's your experience of pregnancy been like so far? What week are you on now?
so I'm now week 19.
Okay. So you've done quite a bit already. Nearly, are you
Yeah,
halfway? Nearly halfway.
halfway
Yeah.
through now. Okay. So yeah,
Wow.
first 14 weeks were horrible, horrible. That's just because obviously the baby was growing inside at that time, and you do get really sick, and it's not pleasant. Like, you know, I guess everyone's different. Some people probably don't go through that, but a lot of people do. It
Yeah.
is very common, even if you have a stoma or not. But obviously, if you have a stoma as well, if your stomach's all over the place and it's not feeling good, then your stoma output as well. I noticed my stoma output was really heavy. So like I was having to empty a lot more during the first 12 weeks. Like at night time, usually I will go like once, twice, maybe maximum. You know, I was going like 3 to 4 times during the night to empty. So
Wow.
I was waking up very tired, like shattered. I couldn't, like, I didn't want to do anything. I was very tired. And then as well, just the sickness as well, the throwing up was horrible, and like non-stop feeling sick. And then you want to eat more as well because like you feel as almost if you don't eat, you're going to be sick. It's such a weird feeling. Like the
Yeah.
minute you feel empty, you feel like you're going to be sick. So you have to keep eating. And I'm not somebody who likes to eat loads of food because it makes me feel, you know, just bloated, not nice. And then the stoma as well, the output is a lot higher the more you eat. So
Yeah.
it wasn't nice having to keep eating like every hour on the hour. It was exhausting. And yeah, and it was weird. And then I just like had the adhesions as well to like top it all off. So that was awful. I was having the normal sickness and all the normal stuff that comes with pregnancy. Then I was having the stoma stuff too. So yeah, it was absolutely awful, to be honest. But once I got to week 14, I did notice a shift. And as well, like
Mm.
one of the best things that I did and that I would recommend everyone else to do as well is like if you are feeling really, really sick, like don't just suffer. Like, because I did suffer for quite a bit before I actually went to the doctors and said, like, you know, I'm feeling really sick. And then they gave me some pills, and the pills helped me so much. Like literally, like they stopped the sickness. And I
Wow.
really wish sooner because they really help. So yeah, I definitely say if you are feeling sick, definitely like tell your doctor about it. Don't just drink ginger tea because everyone tells you to. I hate ginger. And everyone's like, oh, have ginger, have a ginger biscuit, have a ginger tea. Even my mum was like, oh, you need to eat ginger. I was like, I don't like ginger. I hate, I want to eat ginger. And even if I did, it didn't help me. Like, it didn't do anything. I tried a bit of a ginger biscuit, did nothing. You know, like the whole point of medicine is it's there to sort problems out. I'm a full advocate for, like, you know, if you're feeling rough, get a pill because they do work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I know are very like anti-medicating and anti this and anti that, which is fine. Do you? But you know, for me, it's like if I don't feel well, and I've been through so much pain in my life that you know anything to just have a normal day, I'll take the pill. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Make life easier.
I'm going to take it. I'm not turning down nothing. So yeah, what pills, it was fine. 14 weeks now, plus. Yeah, all I feel now at the moment is very like tired, just very tired. But I'm always tired anyway. But I'm at the point now where, like, even yesterday, it was pretty bad actually. Yesterday, I slept for 17 hours.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm so jealous. What
Like,
hours did you sleep from?
it's obviously I had to keep waking up to do my bag, but like,
Yeah.
I just didn't have any strength in me to. I wasn't like to get out of bed to move. Like, it's weird. Like, you just feel so tired. I guess as well for me, because I do have like mental health stuff as well. I suffer really bad anxiety and depression and stuff. So I think in the early stages that came on quite hard as well, like feeling very anxious,
Yeah.
really depressed. It's because it is quite it can be quite isolating being pregnant, because you feel like there's obviously things you can't do. You can't go out drinking, and your friends are all going out the weekends going for drinks, and they don't necessarily invite you because you're pregnant. So it can be quite, and it can feel quite lonely because obviously you can't do everything that you would like to do. And if you're really tired like me as well, you don't have the energy to want to do stuff. So
Yeah.
you can feel quite lonely. So yeah, I think it does take a toll on your mental health as well, which is something I think people are talking about more now, because in the past we've talked about mental health after pregnancy, like
Yeah.
postnatal, but actually the bit before that hasn't really been spoken about before, how like it can impact your mental health being pregnant as well. Like, it isn't always a really exciting and joyous time for everyone. For some people, it's really lonely and really depressing.
Yeah. It's always going to be depressing when you don't feel well.
Yes, and that's
Whatever the reason for you not feeling well, that is
yeah,
incredibly depressing.
yeah.
Being bedbound and feeling sick the whole time, that's
First bit of
always
week,
going to feel.
so depressed, really, really low. Like,
Yeah.
I just felt like it just felt like a curse more than a blessing. I felt like I'd just been cut. Like, I felt like I was being punished or something. It was absolutely awful. I thought I've been through all this stuff, and now I'm back feeling. I just got better, and now I'm feeling really ill again. I felt fed up, annoyed. I felt all of this stuff. I didn't feel
Yeah.
connected to my baby at all. I just felt fed up, And only now am I starting to kind of get used to it. But it is really weird when you've never had a baby before, like, your body changing and knowing there's something inside of you. It's very strange.
It is.
Because, like, so, if sometimes I forget it's even there until I go to the hospital and I have a scan and I see it. I'm like, Christ, I keep forgetting that. What's that doing there? How's that got there? Like, what is that? Because I don't even feel it at the moment, like kicking or anything. So I literally just forget. I don't know. Everybody's different when they start to feel it moving around, but I haven't felt it yet. So it's really easy for me to just forget that it's even there, until I like go to the hospital. So yeah, it's a weird one.
In terms of how having a stoma has impacted your pregnancy, obviously you've mentioned that pregnancy has impacted your output, and
Mm.
also, of course, that just being bedbound and feeling unwell is obviously not great, and obviously kind of takes you back, I imagine, to when you were poorly last time. How has it impacted your pregnancy, or anything that you have to do with about being pregnant in any way?
Yeah, so I get quite a lot of questions from people about that, in terms of, like, I guess being pregnant, does it affect the stoma? Like, a lot of people are asking me if it impacts like what the stoma looks like, or some people are asking me, like, can I even wear a stoma bag while I'm pregnant? So I mean, obviously you can wear a stoma bag while pregnant, because
Yeah.
if you did, you wouldn't be able to do anything because you'd just be covered in poo. So
Yeah.
obviously you're going to wear your bag the whole time. But the stoma, from talking to everybody who's been pregnant before, the only thing that really happens in terms of the stoma's size or shape or that kind of stuff is that it does get a tiny bit bigger, like a little bit, as your stomach grows, like properly out, it does get a little bit bigger, the stoma, but it doesn't move upwards or anything like that. It stays kind of in its place, but obviously if your stomach's growing out, it will go out a little bit more. You still wear your stoma bags. I guess, if it does get a bit bigger, you could change stoma bag and get a bigger size.
Yeah.
In terms of like doctor appointments and stuff, I do have probably more appointments than most people do. I go in pretty much once a week at the moment. So, but most of it's just like monitoring stuff. I just go in for like more blood tests, urine tests, blood pressure, and that kind of stuff. But in terms of the actual birth, I actually saw my not the surgeon who did my surgery, but his like number 2 or whatever
Mm-hmm.
yesterday, and we actually had a bit of a talk. It was quite interesting because I really want to have a cesarean birth, because I just do. Like, I've always wanted to have a C-section even before I got ill, and I still want to have a C-section now. I'm terrified of natural births, to be
Yeah.
honest. Like, I've seen them, I'm terrified. I've been through a lot of pain now, especially. So I just, whatever's minimal, I feel like is what I kind of want to do. And obviously, for everybody, it's completely personal choice. So
Yeah.
it's just what I wanted. And I told him that yesterday. And he did say to me that, like, you know, because I've had my rectum removed and I've got just the stoma, he said that I could have a natural or a C-section. Like, either one is completely fine to have. So you have got the options. He did say that, you know, in terms of like having a natural birth, it's probably more straightforward actually if you've had your rectum removed, because he said that having a C-section is obviously you're cutting your abdomen open again, and that can cause issues with doing that and so forth. It's all so complex, but he did say that if you did have a stoma but you didn't have your rectum removed, or you had a pouch, I think he said they recommend doing C-section
That's interesting.
at birth. But if you've got rid of your rectum, then they say that it's probably better to have a natural birth, because it's all to do with, obviously, when you have a natural birth, the risks are obviously about tearing your
Yeah.
bottom and so forth for that down area. But if you've already got that removed and sewn up, there isn't a risk of that happening.
That's a good
Whereas
point.
if you have that, then it's better to have a C-section done. So that was interesting, because I didn't know that. I thought, you know, especially from things I'd read, that C-section would be what they would recommend. But definitely not. He said that it would be a lot better to have a natural birth in my case. But I just said to him, obviously, you know, I've been through a lot of stuff, and I'll take, like, you know, I feel like there's risks in natural birth as well, not
Yeah.
just about the bottom. There's risks in all kinds of births. Stuff can happen, and I think it's genuinely about what is best for the person, not just physically but mentally too, because
Yeah.
especially if I've been through the things that I've been through, I have a lot of mental stuff about everything. So I do want to do something that's going to be mentally make me feel better. And the whole thing with C-section is, you know, I can plan the day that's going to happen.
Yeah. You know when. Yeah.
Yes, I
100%.
plan it. And I need that, because I've just, you know, obviously the last time I was in that hospital, I was there for 2 months and everything was just emergency, emergency, emergency. I don't want to have no more emergencies. I
Yeah.
just want to look forward as much as I can. Obviously, I don't know how it's going to go on the day or what's going to happen, but it was also reassuring, because he said as well that if I had a C-section, like, he would be there to like, just to, because he said that they wouldn't really know what my insides were like until they obviously opened me up on the day. So he
Yeah.
said he can, like, if anything was amiss or going wrong. That was reassuring. I was like, oh, okay, that's good.
That's really reassuring. That was actually a question that I was going to ask you, because I know everyone has such different experiences from this
Yeah.
perspective. But like, how joined up has the dialogue been between your kind of pregnancy consultants and healthcare professionals, and then obviously your team who helped you with your colitis and kind of having your stoma? Are they talking to one another?
Kind of, only now, really, only because I said that I wanted to have the C-section. I think if I wasn't having the C-section, there wouldn't be that much dialogue, because technically now I don't have colitis anymore, you know, so there's nothing really to discuss. If I still had
Yeah.
active IBD, or I was on medication for IBD, I imagine there would be a lot more dialogue, and especially from the people I spoke to who did have active IBD and stuff, then there was a lot of dialogue. But for me, because I'm in the clear now, I don't have that same level of panic and stuff about it. For me, it's just the only thing that obviously they'd be worried about now is, like I said, because I'm having the C-section, and in case there was just anything inside that was going on or anything like that. Because it's obviously, for normal people doing a C-section, they probably don't see stomas every day, so that
Yeah.
will be interesting for them.
Nice little learning curve for them with your
Yeah.
C-section.
I'll say as well about the C-section, I think they said, people ask me things like, you know, how can you have a C-section, obviously, if you have the stoma? But the C-section, when they do it, they do an incision that's like
Very low.
very low.
Yeah.
It's much lower than stoma, and it's like across like this, whereas obviously my scar at the moment is down like this. So it'll be a different incision. It won't be in the same place. So it shouldn't. And it's like it's crazy how small the incision is for cesarean. Like it's so small. I don't know how they get a full size baby out of that.
It's mad.
It's insane. So I mean, yeah, it shouldn't impact the stoma having a C-section at all. I
That's
hope.
great. We touched upon this before I pushed record, but I'd really like to kind of touch upon it again if we can.
Yeah.
You mentioned obviously that you were having more frequent trips to the hospital than perhaps someone in a kind of pregnancy where they haven't got a stoma would be. How is it go? It's the same hospital you had your surgery in, so
Mm.
that's going to be triggering. How has that experience been for you?
Yeah, it's not nice. Like it's weird. It's a weird one because it's nice for me and it's not nice. It's nice because I know a lot of the people there and I feel safe there because they did such an incredible job when I was there the first time. Obviously, it was an absolutely awful time for me
Yeah.
terms of what I went through, but it wasn't because of any of the staff that I went through that. It was because I was really ill, and that hospital did the most amazing job for me that they could have done in the situation that I was in, which is why I chose to have my baby there as well, because I wanted to be somewhere where I had peace of mind, that there was going to be, people there who knew my history and knew me.
Yeah.
And if anything went wrong, God forbid, like they've got the colorectal team there who would be able to assist.
Yeah.
But at the same time, obviously, of course, whenever I go there, all I can think about is that Christmas and New Year that I spent there. Just so ill, like, it's just, and it's meant every time I go there, it literally does feel like my second home. It feels like, it's mental that, like, at 29, I know the inside and out of a hospital. Like, I don't feel like anybody should have to know
No.
hospital like I do, at such a young age. Like it's horrible to know that, I nearly lost my life in that hospital, and now I'm getting ready to give life in that hospital in such a short space of time, in the space of 2 years. It's quite incredible, but it is hot. Like I said, like when I first went there for one of my appointments to have a blood test done, I did have a PTSD attack. Like I started crying and shaking. Poor lady that was just trying to take my blood didn't know what the hell was going on. She was just looking at me. But obviously she didn't have a clue like why I felt like that. She just thought I was scared of needles.
Mm.
I felt like saying to her, I'm not scared of needles. I've had enough going in and out of me. Trust me, I'm not scared of the needles. It's just like this place. It's just hearing the noises, the sounds, the smell, all of it. I'm just like, oh my God. And the thing is as well, like the maternity ward is literally opposite the first colorectal ward I was on. So I literally have to
Oh
go past.
God.
Am I going to the maternity ward? And I just can't obviously help but think about the time that I ended up going in there and what that was like. And it's haunting. It really is
Mm.
haunting to think that how bad things were. But at the same time, like, I have to remind myself of how far I've come in this journey, and all the people there helped me get to this place. So I mean, yeah, it's nice and it's not nice. It's nice to be somewhere I know. It's also not nice to be somewhere I know. It's a really weird one. But I think if I was anywhere else, I'd be probably worse, because I'd just be panicking, thinking, oh, they don't know me, they don't know what I'm about, they don't know this, they don't know that. Like, because especially because of my condition stuff, it's very specialised. So a lot of hospitals, if they don't have like an IBD department, or they don't have, you know, certain specialist people there, they don't really understand what I've had done, and that frustrates me because I don't want to
Yeah,
sit there and explain it all. It's annoying, and I've
absolutely.
about this a lot recently because I've started my campaign for this emergency stoma kit stuff that I'm doing.
I was going to
So
ask you about that.
oh, were you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that, another thing about that is kind of like, there's so many like, I don't know, like GPs I've encountered, just pharmacy staff, people who do work with obviously people who have stoma bags but have actually no clue about any of it. And it's frustrating when you have to encounter that, because you're like, oh, I feel like you should know this. Like, you're supposed to be a GP, or you're supposed to be a pharmacist. Why do you not know anything about this? But
Mm.
obviously it does make me upset sometimes, because even if I go into the hospital now, I always get a bit shirty when they try to put me with somebody who's like a general doctor or a general nurse, because I know they're not going to know anything about me. And I'm very like adamant that I only want to see someone from the specific colorectal surgical team, because they're the only people who will really understand what's happening with me. You know, a couple of weeks ago, they called me into the hospital to have an appointment. I didn't know what it was about, because like I said, I get so many appointments every week. I don't even know what half these appointments are for. They don't. They just go, "You've got an appointment." So I turn up not knowing what's going to happen. And the other week I turned up. It said it was for a colorectal appointment, which I thought was weird, because obviously I haven't got anything wrong with my stoma or anything, so I didn't know why I was going. And then there was this guy there who I've actually seen before. Funnily enough, he's worked in A&E. He works in A&E, and I knew he didn't know anything about like stoma stuff. So when I saw him, I was like, oh God, why am I seeing him for? So I said to him, like, oh, you know, I don't know why I'm here. Why am I here? He's like, oh, I don't know why you're here either.
Oh,
I
for
mean, him.
God's sake.
I was like, I've come out of work. Like, why am I here? He's like, oh, it's just like a checkup thingy, or maybe or something. And I was like, but you don't know anything about stomas. And he was like, yeah, I don't really. He was like, and I was like, well, then obviously I'm not going to sit here and talk to you about it. Like, I need somebody that knows, because it's just a waste of our times.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'm going to go now. I was like, I'll come back. Like, if there's somebody like I can actually speak to that knows about stoma stuff or
It's
what I've had
mental.
done. And he was like, oh, okay, well, I'll try and get you an appointment with, you know, the main surgical guy. And I was like, what? Why didn't they just put me with him in the first place? I don't really get it. But yeah, when you have those experiences, it's so frustrating, because like it's just a waste of your day, because they don't know anything, and then all they'll say is, oh well, I have to get you to see so and so, and you've wasted a whole day
That could
giving
have
them
been a phone call. Not
and it
necessary.
happens frequently, because nobody seems to know anything about stomas unless they are like very specialized individuals, which is why I think, you know, if we start doing this whole emergency kit thing, it's going to start to get people having more awareness, at least a basic awareness of what a stoma is, what a J pouch is, like all of this kind of stuff, because at the moment there's just so little awareness.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare.
Can you flesh out a bit about what this campaign is that you've launched and what it is that you're hoping to see?
Yeah, so basically I've been thinking about it for a long time, really. I think the first time I started thinking about it was, the first time I started thinking about it was, I think, was it last year? Maybe it's the beginning of last year, when I went out for like, not a long trip, it was probably like half an hour, just to go get a coffee. And I went on my own in my car, and I wasn't far away from where I was living with my mum at the time. And I just went into town, went to get a coffee, sat down, and then all of a sudden I could smell poo really strong. And I was like, oh my God, what is that? What is that? And at that time as well, I was especially very wary of my stomach, because I was suffering leaks. I hadn't really found what was working for me properly yet. So then I looked down and I was touching and it was wet, and I was like, oh my God. And luckily there was like a toilet right next to the table, so I just sprinted it, but it was like one toilet. I sprinted into there, and then I realised, oh my God, I've got no supplies, I've got nothing. And I sat there like, I don't know what I'm going to do, because I can't leave this toilet, because I'm literally covered in poo and I haven't got any stuff. So I was freaking out. I had to ring my mum, who was thankfully at home, and I had the supplies literally just in my car, but I hadn't brought them into the cafe with me. So I rang my mum, got her to come to bring me some clothes and some supplies.
Yeah.
And she came, and it was like, you know, really embarrassing, because everybody was queuing outside the toilet. There was one toilet.
Oh,
and
God.
stuff, and then I had to do a full change and come out, and like I was just it was so traumatic. It was awful. It was just like it was horrible. And then a second, and after that experience, I did think to myself, like, wouldn't it just be great if, like, because there was literally like a Superdrug next door, and there was like another Boots. I was just like, wouldn't it be just great if, like, in times like this, you could like just pop into the Boots or the Superdrug and get just something to sort yourself out, you know, anything you've done at that point, anything. So that was like the first time I thought about it. And then the second time, which really frustrated me, which really just nearly sent me over the edge, was I was at A&E, and I was there. I can't remember why I was there, but I was there with my mum to begin with. They said my mum couldn't come through with me. I had to go through on my own. But my mum had all of my stuff. And I thought, well, I'll probably be back in a bit. So I went through and then I started to have a leak. So I was like, shit, my mum's got all my stuff. So I legged it into the disabled toilet, but I thought, oh, it's okay because I'm in A&E. I'm sure they've got something. So I just pressed the red buzzer thing. Someone came and I was like, I'm having a leak from my stoma. Do you have anything that I could use because I haven't got any of my stuff on me? She stared at me like I was an alien and just went, no, you need to have your own stuff. And I was like, but my mum's got my stuff. You told me I need to come through on my own. She's got all my things. And they were like, oh, you'll have to get her to come and meet you. And I was like, but this is A&E. Like, what? What if somebody was here and they didn't have anybody with them? What are they going to do? I don't get it. You're literally a hospital. I'm confused. And I was really pissed off about it. So then I had to get my mum to come through, give me the supplies. And then I just was like, this is just ridiculous. How can a hospital not have
Medical
supplies
products? Yeah.
And I've been for my scans as well, my ultrasound, and they've used jelly on my stomach. And I think they were having a hard time finding the baby because it was hidden behind my stoma. So they were literally going at it for half an hour with jelly, right? Loads of jelly. So my bag was starting to lift. And I said to them, my bag's lifting. I haven't got stuff with me. Have you got anything to put on it? Because it's going to come off. And they were like, no. And I was like, but then why would you do that if you know it's going to lift my bag and you haven't got anything here? I don't get it. I was really annoyed and I was like, no, stop it. Whatever. And then after that, I had to go straight home because I was panicking like hell. This bag was just holding on for dear life. I didn't have, there was nothing, obviously there was nowhere in the hospital that could give me anything either. So it was an absolute nightmare. So then I was like, right, this has got to stop. This has got to come to an end because this is obviously happening to probably so many people. And if they don't even have supplies available in hospitals on different wards and A&E, it just shows that they don't care because you can guarantee, if there was somebody who had diabetes or anything like that, they'd probably have an EpiPen or something like that. But people with stomas are so forgotten about and so just cast aside. And the whole fact that you can only get stuff from a home delivery, there is no way of getting anything from a chemist. It actually blows my mind because for most other conditions, if you need something emergency, you can get it from a pharmacy.
Yeah.
Can't with stoma bags at all. And so obviously, people will say to me things like, oh, but there are different stoma bags and different types. When you first have your stoma bag, they don't come around and say to you, oh, would you like convex or a flat bag?
Yeah.
They just
also, in an emergency, you'll just take it's just a short-term fix till you can get to your next place.
I understand. I wear convex bags. Yeah, I love my convex bags. Wouldn't really want to wear a flat bag because convex ones are better. But in those situations where things have been very desperate, I would have taken probably even a bin bag with some sellotape and made something because who wants to walk around with poo down themselves? And then there's also sometimes there's issues with suppliers and issues with the postage, delays. There's so many reasons why somebody could be left short. It's not just people saying oh, you should always carry your supplies around with you. What if you had an emergency admittance to hospital and you didn't have time to get your supplies together and you're not in a colorectal unit, you're in a different unit and they haven't got anything for you? Then what do you do?
Yeah.
There's so many reasons why places should carry a kit of some kind to help people with stomas and also just gives them a bit more independence, especially particularly younger people, because teenagers and young adults, they don't plan ahead for stuff. They just at the door. They're not sitting there being like, right, hang on, let me pack my supplies into my backpack. You think 16-year-old boys are going to be doing that? They're not. They're going to just go out the door. They're going to hope for the best. That's just life. Nobody is perfect. Nobody always carries the right equipment on them. It just doesn't happen. So I just want to be able to make people feel a bit more independent by having something available in a supermarket or a chemist, but particularly things like ambulances, A&E, hospital wards, they should have something that should be available bare minimum at least. But the thing is, I don't know, I've started the campaign on Twitter and had some really great response, but it's just one of those things to get it off the ground. It's the sad truth is that people don't care about people with stomas. They just don't, because if it doesn't impact them, why are they bothered? They don't care. And that's the sad truth. Like, that's why nothing's ever really changed for people's stone bags, because we're just that kind of group that people just, because it's to do with poo and taboo stuff, people just don't want to be involved with it. They just don't want to touch it, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, for people with wheelchairs and things like that, there is a lot more awareness, and a lot more people will listen if there are issues. Like, particularly at the moment, one of the main issues with people with wheelchairs is about flights, about going on planes. You know, there's a presenter, Sophie Morgan, who's doing a campaign for rights on flights, and you know, people, she's been going to BA and like Parliament, and even like some of the airplanes now are starting to incorporate disabled seats into planes. I mean, it's not perfect, but at least there's
But
kind
it's
of like,
something.
it's on the news, it's this, it's that. Where is anything? When do you ever see anything like that happening for issues in the stoma community? Does it happen? No, doesn't happen. People don't listen. People are not interested, because they just see us as just like a forgotten group. But it's happening to more and more people now having a stoma. It's not going away. This issue isn't
Yeah.
going anywhere. It can
No.
happen to any time as well. Like, that's the thing. It's not just like something you're born with. It can literally happen at any time in life. So
Yeah.
these people are ignoring it because they think, oh, it's nothing to do with me.
And then it might
Well,
happen.
you know, I never thought I'd have a stoma bag. And I
No.
used to talk about Adele Roberts when I was working in my job. And I always used to think to myself, like, God, how she lived with a stoma bag? Oh, I don't know how I'd cope. 3 months later, I've got a stoma bag. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, and that just shows that you don't know what's going to happen to you in life. You don't know when this stuff's going to affect you. So it's just ignorant to ignore it because you feel like it doesn't impact you, because it could
100%.
impact you, or a family member, or your children. You know, even the kids are going through this.
Yeah.
It's not an adult thing. There are so many youngsters who are born and have to have a stoma of some kind. And
Yeah.
it's sad that there's not really been any progress made to make it a more inclusive society for us. You
Yeah.
know, in fact, that I feel like these days it's getting worse, because every time I go out, the disabled toilets are locked, nearly everywhere. And not like, oh, use your radar
Yeah.
key, because radar key. No, I mean, as in, like, they're completely locked or out of order. They've got a sign on said out of order. Literally, nearly everywhere I go, and it's traumatizing, because when you've got a stoma, you don't necessarily want to use the main toilets,
No.
because you might need to change whatever it is. You want to use a disabled toilet, but they're all shut, they're all locked. So that gives you stress and anxiety as well.
Yeah.
And it's draining. It really is draining. And the fact that obviously it's so hard to get these sort of campaigns through, yeah, it's really difficult, because it isn't something people want to push forward. But so the only thing really I can do is to keep banging on about it, because if I don't, people just won't ever, I
Listen.
don't know, think about it, or, you know, consider it.
Yeah. Well, firstly, I want to say thank you so much for like being the voice that pushes these things forward, because you are someone that really fights for these issues and fights for other people and advocates, and it's amazing. Secondly, if there's anything we can do as Ostique to support you in this, please let us know. We're bringing out bags later this year. We're happy to be a part of that pack if it's
Oh my god,
helpful.
they look so good. I'm really
Thanks.
excited. I was line and everything, and I was like, oh, they look so nice.
Oh, thank you. So, yeah, they're
So,
coming out. We would love to be in packs to support
and it's,
people who are on the move.
like, I guess even from you guys bringing out your brand, it's been a fairly recent thing as well.
Yeah.
Like at least there are some like new like companies getting involved in the stoma community, because, you know, if you think about it, maybe even like 10 years ago there wasn't companies like Ostique, you know, Respond, Pelican, all these kind of newer,
Yeah.
you know, just like a couple. So at least now we are getting more like social media focused, people focused companies, because we need it, you know. Like, just having charities, I mean, the charities are great, but they're not necessarily so good at engaging with the younger audience, I don't think. Whereas,
Yeah.
like with you guys, you know, you have the podcast and you have the stoma bag covers, and, you know, you post really cool stuff, and you do social meetups. You know, I think that's really, really important, especially for the younger age group, to have somewhere that they feel like they can get involved, and
Yeah.
actually products that are aimed at them, not just like for the general populace. So
Yeah.
it's, you know, I think it is really, really important. Obviously, that's the thing. Like, I try to be very active and proactive in campaigning for stuff, because I think, especially like, you know, if you've got a stoma, as I said, it's already quite a bit of a taboo thing to have. You don't necessarily want to talk about it so much. But I think if somebody like me, who's a younger person, uses their voice to speak about it and to actually advocate for things, not just post on social media, then it's going to show people that there's nothing to be ashamed about, and that they can use their voice and speak out for things that matter to them. Because I think that's the thing. Like, so long, people have felt like, oh, I can't talk about stomas. I can't talk about stoma bags. Like, oh, ick, embarrassing poo. Whereas like now, you know, if like they can see that I'm talking about it and people are reacting to it in a positive way, they can think like, oh, okay, well, people are reacting to that really well, and Holly's speaking about it, so like I can speak about it as well. Like, there's
Yeah.
nothing to be afraid of. You know, if you don't speak about stuff, nothing ever changes. That's the thing. Things just stay the same. And nothing ever moves on, and things haven't moved on for so long in terms of like the way the whole stoma community works, like the products, the way that they are shipped, everything's just like stayed the same for such a long time.
Yeah.
And like nothing's really moved on. So, you know, and as I said, as things are getting more, as more and more people with stomas are coming into the world, being reborn with stomas, you know, they're going to need more ways of accessing products, I think. Like, it's just, with our busy lives, I think people are so busy now, and everyone has to work long hours, and, you know, it's just hard. It's hard, and not everybody also stays in one place. You know, if you're having like a home service, but you might be somebody who isn't always in the same address,
Yeah.
might be traveling, or you might be doing this and that. You know, people have these very active lives. It's just not convenient all of the time.
I completely agree. I think finding ways to make things as accessible as possible for people should be of the highest priority. So
Yeah,
yeah, I'm glad.
we just need to keep talking about it.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, so I've already done like one interview yesterday for a newspaper, and then next week I'm going on BBC Five Live, which is something I've never done
Amazing.
before. So I'm really excited to go on and to talk about this. And then, like I say, hopefully see what comes with it. But like, you know, Crohn's and colitis have already reached out to me, which was really nice of them to do. They,
Amazing.
and you know, you guys as well. So like, hopefully if we can get lots of different people together and we can start talking and maybe finding a way that we can actually get this to
To work.
work in some way.
Absolutely. Holly, I could literally talk to you all day, but I know I have to end this podcast at some point. But can I
Yeah.
ask you one more question before we go? For
Mhm.
anyone who has maybe had stoma surgery and is thinking that they want to start thinking about having a family, what would you say, given that they have a stoma, what would you say they should maybe be aware of before kind of going into it, or things that they should just know about might happen during their pregnancy?
Like I say, I really think for me, one of the most important things for me before I considered it was that I was in a good place with my health. Because, you know, I think if I wouldn't have tried to have had a baby while I still had my rectum, because I was still going through having diversion colitis and I was still not very well and
Yeah.
suffering with that. So I think before you even consider it, you want to be in a good place health wise, whether that means you're fine with your stoma, or you want to have a pouch, or your rectum, get everything like that sorted first
Yeah.
before you decide to have a family. Because I think obviously once you have a baby and stuff like that, it's obviously a lot harder to find the time to go in to have surgery, to have the recovery time, all that kind of stuff. So I was really glad that, like, that's why I got everything done very quickly. Like, you know, I had my stoma surgery, then I had my rectum removed 8 months later. I got it done very quickly because I just wanted it all to be over and done with.
Yeah.
And then I felt like after that I could really move on with my life and focus on the next chapter. So once I'd got through that and I was feeling better in myself, I was like, okay, now I can actually think about it properly. And just don't read too much online, because experiences are so different. And remember, everybody's got different illnesses to you, you know, so you can't compare. So, you know, if you've got like colitis, you can't really compare yourself to somebody that has endometriosis. Two completely different conditions. And Crohn's and colitis on their own don't necessarily impact fertility. There isn't any proven cause of them impacting fertility. But, you know, it doesn't hurt to try to do an at-home test like I did and failed at. You know, give it a go. And if you are obviously very concerned, go to see the doctors,
Yeah.
get them to do tests and things like that. But a lot of the time it's more about just being relaxed, being healthy, in a good place mentally and physically before you start to do that. And also thinking about the fact that having a baby is going to be a lot of work as well. So like balancing that with dealing with your stoma if you have one and all that stuff, you just got to obviously think about it. But yeah, that's the only thing really. I just think you've got to be in a good place with your health before you try and do anything like that, because your health is the most important thing.
Absolutely. Holly, thank you so much. Hopefully we can have you on season 2 when you've had your baby and we can talk about your birth and how you're finding it.
About next. So many different.
I know, I love it. Keep us
Good.
updated on your campaign as well, and we really would love to be involved.
Lovely. Take care.
You too. Bye. Have you seen the new Ostique skins yet? Ostique skins are revolutionary ostomy pouch covers that were created to make the wearer feel confident, sexy and powerful in all of life's moments. From moments of intimacy to lounging by the pool, conquering a workout or simply heading out to lunch, skins have you covered. Even better, they're compatible with all major colostomy and ileostomy bags. Ostique skins are available in a range of colours and skin tones, and they're made from a revolutionary material that's completely waterproof, high quality, soft and comfortable. Skins are easy to use, even with reduced dexterity, and they work with both closed and drainable bags. Plus, skins are also environmentally friendly and vegan. There are 4 bundles available to buy now, and you can also purchase individual skins. Head to ostique.co.uk to find out more.